see the red and the blue that seem really scattered. Those are our large and mega regions. And those are largely based on membership size. The rest are mostly geographical. And as you can see, New Hampshire is in the East region. Each region is overseen by a regional vice president, and then by each state by a state director. Interesting. In New Hampshire, AARP has about 220,000 members throughout the state. There's a staff of 5 people who work for the local office, which is based in Concord, though we've all been working from home since mid-March of last year. There are 3 what we call communities of presence in New Hampshire. This means that AARP has a larger footprint in these communities than the rest of the state. And these communities are Greater Manchester, Greater Concord, and the Seacoast area. We have hundreds of volunteers who are engaged in communities across the state and thousands of e-activists who make their voices heard on AARP's advocacy efforts. Pre-COVID, AARP New Hampshire put on or participated in hundreds of events and activities across the entire state. Today, AARP is focused on the health and safety of its members and the public and has been offering live virtual events for almost a year now. When Dr. Andrus created AARP in 1958, she envisioned that the organization would be managed by volunteers. Today, AARP is still governed by an all-volunteer board of directors. The board is generally comprised of 21 volunteers, including a president and a president-elect. It governs on behalf of AARP members and provides direction for the affairs and resources of the association, and it approves and provides oversight on public policies, programs, activities, and services. The Volunteer Board of Directors also appoints an all-volunteer National Policy Council. This group helps the board create national, state, and local policies. All of the policies developed by the National Policy Council and adopted by the board are included in the annual policy book, which is available for viewing on AARP's website. So this is available and open to anyone. AARP remains an organization where policies, budget, and directions are transparent. So many people think that AARP is too political. What they're really saying is that AARP is too politically biased, but it's not. As I said before, AARP is a nonpartisan organization, which means that it does not have a political action committee. It does not contribute money to candidates or political parties, and it does not endorse or oppose political candidates or parties. But AARP is indeed involved in advocacy. AARP fights for issues that matter to all people 50 plus, their families, and society. AARP is the leader in the fight to protect Social Security and Medicare, and to oppose federal laws that would have a negative impact on the 50 plus and their families. AARP fought for SNAP, the Supplemental Nutrition Assistance Program, so millions of older Americans living on low fixed incomes do not have to choose between food and other important necessities. Legislation related to caregiving is also very important to AARP, including the Raised Family Caregivers Act, which requires the federal government to develop ways to help those who are caring for others. And I would be remiss to not say that Woody, part of your group, Woody Spanagle, has been instrumental within AARP in New Hampshire on the caregiving issue and developing resources for caregivers in New Hampshire. AARP New Hampshire also advocates at the state level and has many volunteers working on issues that impact people 50 plus and their families. Issues like the high cost of prescription drugs, access to home and community-based services, access to high-speed internet, all too important for connection in times like these. Even PPE for nursing homes is something that we've been advocating for during the pandemic, and paid leave for caregivers, and so much more. I could probably spend an hour just listing off the various various issues that we are involved in with advocacy. Our federal advocacy is led by our state director, Todd Fahey, and our state advocacy is managed by Doug McNutt, our advocacy director. What I'm about to talk about is where the advocacy in my title really comes into play, and that is really in our elections work. So as I've said numerous times now, AARP is a nonpartisan organization. However, that doesn't mean that we don't engage in advocacy around elections. AARP's goal in our elections work is to get candidates on the record for how they plan to address various issues. In 2020, during the presidential election cycle, AARP was heavily focused on getting candidates to lay out their plans for lowering prescription drug prices. And we were quite successful in our ventures, I must say. So these are actual pictures of our volunteers with several of the presidential candidates. And you can also see our RX T-Rex in some of the pictures as well. In the 6 months leading up to the 2020 presidential primary, AARP volunteers participated in over 300 candidate events. And the candidates would talk about their plans for lowering prescription drug prices simply by seeing our red shirts and jackets in the audience. It got to the point where they knew we were there and they would just immediately start talking about lowering prescription drug prices. As a standard, we are well branded, highly visible, and engaged with voters, the candidates, and their staff. Visibility of AARP and our issues is a big part of our efforts around the presidential primary and elections in general, including the general election as well. Additionally, our volunteers engaged with voters. They handed out stickers. You might recognize Lou D'Alessandro in the picture here with his Stop RX Greed sticker there. They handed out stickers, giveaways. They collected thousands of Stop RX Greed petition signatures and utilized various forms of signage to get the public's, candidates, and media's attention as well. So you can see some of our volunteers there in the upper left-hand corner with their signs. During the 2020 general election, a major priority for AARP was to ensure that its members could vote safely in the middle of a pandemic. We worked closely with the Secretary of State's office to ensure clear communication and access to safe voting for all Granite Staters. In addition to safe voting, volunteers also attended virtual candidate events to ask questions on AARP priority issues. Again, getting the candidates on the record for how they plan to address issues like Social Security, Medicare, livable communities, caregiving, and many, many more. We participate in all candidates' events, so both Republican and Democrat, again, as part of our nonpartisan. Okay, so now I'm going to share just a little bit about our community events. And I'm going to talk about it in two buckets. I'm going to talk about AARP events in pre-COVID, and then of course right now during the pandemic. So pre-pandemic, as I said, AARP New Hampshire held numerous events annually. We did beer and wine tastings at local breweries and wineries. We had a program called Movies for Grownups, which showed free movies. We even had ice skating at Puddle Duck Pond. We participated in statewide pride festivals, the Tall Ships Festival, and the Walk to End Alzheimer's walks. And we provided educational presentations to a multitude of organizations across the state. And I'll talk a little bit more about that in just a couple of minutes here. Again, pre-pandemic, AARP New Hampshire collaborated with a number of organizations and businesses to bring our members local discounts. A few examples include discounted tickets for Fisher Cats games, shows at Palace Theater, Capitol Center for the Arts and the Music Hall, exhibits at Strawberry Bank and the Millyard Museum, and programs with several chapters of the New Hampshire Audubon. Our intention is to resume the local discount offerings at a time when it is deemed safe and appropriate for people to gather once again. So when the CDC recommended social distancing measures last March, AARP made the strategic decision to take its programming virtual. So in addition to staff being mandated to work from home, we took all of those wonderful community events and figured out how to make the pivot to virtual and continue to have a presence with our members and the public. So we've been offering live programming every week for almost a year now, including anything from gentle yoga to cooking demonstrations to our coffee and conversation series, which covers a variety of topics like insurance fraud, safe winter driving, and COVID vaccine resources, which is actually why I have to hop off the phone when I do, because we have an event this morning on COVID vaccine resources. All of our virtual programming is 100% free and open to the public. So anyone can join. You do not have to be an AARP member to participate in any of our virtual events, which is a little bit different than our in-person events. Typically, you do have to be a member, and members can bring a guest who doesn't have to be a member, but everything we're doing in the virtual space is free and open to the public. In 2019, the AARP Foundation Tax Aid Program volunteers prepared more than 19,000 tax returns for low to moderate income Granite State taxpayers, over 19,000 tax returns, which is a pretty impressive number. There's never a cost for having your taxes done by tax aid, and you don't have to be an AARP member either. And this year, in preparation for 2020 taxes, everything will be no contact. So our volunteers will continue to provide tax preparation, but they will not be sitting down with the actual taxpayers themselves to prepare them. Our Speakers Bureau offers free presentations to groups and organizations across the state. Some of our topics include the Con Artist Playbook, which equips participants with the necessary tools to spot and avoid fraud and scams. Downsizing and decluttering begins by helping participants understand why stuff is important to some people, then provides practical, easy to follow tips for tackling downsizing and decluttering projects. Disrupt Aging is a rally cry to reshape the future of aging by challenging outdated beliefs about what it means to age. HomeFit helps participants learn about smart and cost-effective solutions and modifications that can be made to one's living space in order to age in place. Living Longer, Living Smarter is targeted to those who have not yet retired. It's a 4-part series that creates a long-term comprehensive plan that encompasses home and community, health, finances, and legal considerations. Prepare to Care guides participants through 5 steps to creating a caregiving plan and provides an opportunity for some sharing of tips and resources with one another. The Prepare to Care program can also be tailored to a veterans audience or an LGBT audience. And there is also now a Prepare to Care guide for employers about how to support caregivers in the workplace. And that's certainly a resource that we would be happy to share as well. The 6 Pillars of Brain Health educates participants on living a brain healthy lifestyle. Sorting Fact from Fiction online provides tips and resources for spotting misinformation and disinformation online. And AARP New Hampshire is fairly similar to the presentation that I'm giving to you all today. It talks all about all things AARP, both nationally and here in New Hampshire. And I would just say that if any of you in the organizations that you work for or Pathways Through Aging in the future would like one of our volunteers to come and give one of those different presentations, I would be more than happy to do so. Okay, AARP offers driver safety classes to help sharpen participants' skills, understand new technology, and drive safely on today's roads. The We Need to Talk program helps participants to determine how to assess their loved one's driving skills and provides tools to help have this important and often difficult conversation about when it's time to hang up the keys. These programs are typically offered in person, but for now they are being offered online. All right, I'm going to share some information on the many ways that you can stay connected and get more information on what AARP is doing. Some of them are free and open and available to anyone, and then a few of them are member resources that I'm just going to touch on. Lightly. I think I skipped a page. There we go. So AARP provides a number of ways to stay in touch and stay in the know about organizational happenings. So you can visit the AARP New Hampshire blog at aarp.org/nh and scroll through the blog to view AARP New Hampshire offerings with community collaborators, upcoming educational webinars, articles on fraud, advocacy, and other important topics like COVID-19. You can click the word events. I've circled it in red here on the screen. And then you'll see an actual chronological list of upcoming AARP virtual events, both national and New Hampshire virtual events. If you haven't checked out AARP's national website, aarp.org yet, I would highly encourage you to go and do a little poking around. If you like to cook and try new recipes, there's a section just for food. If you like to play online games, AARP has a whole section for games. So from fun and informative quizzes to money and fraud prevention information, job search tools, free webinars and videos, information on healthy living, and so much more. There's really something here for everyone, regardless of what issue or what your interest is. AARP is active on Facebook and also on Twitter. You can find us at AARPNH. Our handle is the same for both Facebook and for Twitter. AARP has a YouTube channel, and subscribing to the YouTube channel is free. You can watch to learn or watch for fun. There are videos on disrupt aging, staying healthy, caregiving, interviews with celebrities 50 and older, and more. There's just tons and tons and tons of content there. Now, these are a couple of member publications. AARP members receive several publications with their membership. AARP, the magazine, helps our members live in the know, and the AARP Bulletin helps our members stay in the know. The Bulletin includes a targeted state news section, which includes stories and activities specific to the Northeast and often includes something that's happening right here in New Hampshire. AARP New Hampshire also produces a monthly e-newsletter, which is sent to our members statewide. It includes upcoming events and pertinent information during any given month. So these are a few of the things that we had happening in January, a couple of events, and then a story about tools to overcome social isolation. So volunteerism is really the backbone of this organization. And this is a quote by our founder, Dr. Ethel Percy-Andrus, which reads, "The human contribution is the essential ingredient. It is only in the giving of oneself to others that we truly live." We could not do what we do without our dedicated core of AARP volunteers. They are not only involved in the work that we do, but they are often the ones leading the work in advocacy, education, and outreach. So I might actually be able to give a little bit of time back to you all today. So these are some of the ways that you can keep in touch with us here. I hope this has provided you a well-rounded view of AARP as not only a nationwide, but as a local organization. And I would be happy to answer any questions. I'm going to stop sharing my screen here. And I did also put my email address in the chat. So that was a high-level view of all